Hi there, thanks for joining me again as we continue with this delightful Enid Blyton fairy tale, The Enchanted Wood from the Faraway Tree Collection. Let's see where we're up to then. If you have missed any of the other chapters, simply click onto my channel and you'll find them all there. Make yourself nice and comfortable. And we'll continue with chapter 23, called A Most Exciting Night. If only we can creep up the slippery slip that runs right around the middle of the trunk and get to Moonface's at the top, we shall be able to help him, said Joe, feeling about for the trapdoor. I wonder why Moonface didn't slip down it himself, said Bessie. Oh, I think that there would be plenty of red goblins at the bottom of the tree, ready to catch him when he flew out of the trapdoor, said Joe. But I don't believe they know about this slide. He found the trapdoor and swung it open. Hold it open for me while I climb in, he said. Bessie held it, and Joe began to climb up. But dear me, it was most terribly slippery. He simply couldn't manage to get up the slippery slip at all. As fast as he climbed up a little way, he slid down again. Oh, he groaned. This is awful. We can never get up this way. I shall keep slipping down all of the time. Let me try, said Bessie eagerly. So Joe slid out of the trapdoor and Bessie crept in. But it was just the same for her as it was for Joe. The slide was far too steep and slippery to be climbed. Whoosh, 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 said the trees nearby, and Bessie ran to one and put her arms around its trunk and pressed her left ear to it. She listened. Tell the squirrel to go, whispered the leaves. Tell the squirrel to go? Red Squirrel, you go up, said Bessie at once. Can you manage to, do you think? Yes, said the squirrel. I have claws on my feet to hold with, and I'm used to climbing. But what's the use of me going? I am not clever enough to make plans with Moonface. Whoosh, 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 said the trees loudly. Joe pressed his ear onto one of them. "The squirrel can throw a rope down the slippery slip," whispered the tree. "Of course," said Joe in delight. "Why didn't I think of it?" "Tell us," said the girls. Joe told them. "The squirrel must climb the slide to the top. He must ask Moonface for the rope that it has and let down for the cushions. But instead of letting it down for the cushions through the branch of the tree, he must let it down through the slide instead. Then we can hang on and be pulled up." "Oh, that's a really good idea," said Bessie. "Shh," said Joe, as he heard a shout from Goblin up the tree. "We don't want them to guess what we're doing." "The goblins are coming down," whispered Fanny in alarm. I can hear them. What shall we do?" "We'd better get inside the trapdoor and sit at the bottom of the slippery slip as quiet as mice," whispered Joe. "Go in first, Squirrel, and climb up. You know what to do, don't you?" "Yes," said the squirrel, and disappeared up the slide, digging his sharp little claws into just as if he were climbing up the outside of a tree trunk. Joe pushed Bessie inside and then Fanny, and he climbed in himself and shut the trapdoor just in time. 3 goblins jumped down to the foot of the tree and began hunting around and about. I know I heard someone, said one of them. "Well, so long as we don't let them pass up the tree, they can't do much," said another goblin, with a little laugh. "I don't think you heard anyone. Maybe it was just the trees whispering." "Wish, wish, wish, wish," said the trees at once. "There, what did I tell you?" said the goblin. They jumped back into the boughs of the faraway tree, and the children hugged one another and chuckled. "I wonder if the squirrel has got up to the top of the slide yet," said Joe. As he spoke, a little sound came down from the slide, a soft, slinky sound, as something suddenly touched them. Oh, it's a snake," cried Bessie in alarm. "Don't be silly. It's the rope that the good little squirrel has sent down," said Joe, feeling it. "Now we'd better go up one at a time, for Moonface will never be able to pull us up all at once." Fanny went first. She was hauled all the way up the slide. It was very strange, so dark and quiet. And at last she reached the top. Moonface was there, red with pulling. A light burnt in his funny round room, and he simply was overjoyed to see Fanny. He hugged her and then sent down the rope for Bessie. She came up, and then Joe. "Don't make too much noise," said Moonface in a low voice as he squeezed them all. "The goblins are outside everyone's door." "Oh, Moonface, we're so sorry you were captured like this," said Joe. "Couldn't you have slid down the slide and escaped? Or did you think there might be goblins at the bottom?" "Well, I did," said Moonface, "but I also thought that if I slid down I'd be leaving all my friends behind in the tree, and that seemed a mean thing to do." "Yes, it would be rather mean," said Joe, "to save yourself and leave the others. Moonface, what can we do to help you?" "Well, I simply don't know," said Moonface. I've thought, but I can't think of anything really good at all." "It's a pity Silky isn't here," said Joe. "We could talk it over with her then. She's so clever." "We can't possibly get at her," said Moonface. "She's locked in, just as I am." "Joe, Moonface," said Fanny suddenly, her face red with excitement, "I've thought of a way to help." "What?" cried the others. "Well, couldn't the Red Squirrel slip down the slide out of the trapdoor and take a note to the brownies in the wood?" asked Fanny. Do you remember how we helped them when we first came to the wood? They said that they would always be pleased to help us if we ever wanted anything." "Yes, but how could they help?" asked Moonface doubtfully. Nobody quite knew, but Joe suddenly nodded his head and gave a squeal. "Shh," said everyone at once. "Sorry," said Joe, "but I really have got an idea at last. Listen." "The Red Squirrel can tell the brownies to come up here in crowds. We'll pull them up on the rope. Then Moonface can shout out to the goblins outside that he'll tell them the magic spells they want to know, and when they open the door, the brownies and ourselves can all pour out and defeat the goblins." "That's a splendid idea," said Moonface, looking at Joe in admiration. "Simply wonderful," said the girls. Joe was pleased. "And we'll unlock everyone's doors and they can all join in," he said. "My word, this is going to be exciting. Can you see how dreadfully angry the angry pixie will be? And Mr. What's-his-name, my goodness, they'll go for the red goblins like wildcats." Everyone chuckled. The Red Squirrel touched Joe's knee. "Will you give me the note then?" he said. "I know where Mr. Whiskers lives, and I will take the letter to him and let him call all the brownies together." Joe took out his pencil and wrote a note on Moonface's paper. He folded it, and he folded it, and he gave it to the Red Squirrel, who folded it even smaller and tucked it inside his cheek. "That's in case I'm caught by the goblins," he said. "They'll never think of looking for a note inside my cheek." He sat on his bushy tail, gave himself a push, and set off down the slippery slip at a tremendous pace. Fanny giggled. "His tail is a cushion," she said. "Isn't he a darling? I do hope he'll find Mr. Whiskers all right." "Well, we'd better just sit quietly and wait," said Moonface. "I don't want the goblins opening my door and seeing you all here. They'll know we've got a plan then." "We brought you the tea you didn't eat this afternoon," said Bessie, and she undid the bag. "Here are some radish sandwiches, some buns, and some toffee." "We'll all have some," said Moonface, "and I've got some pop biscuits too." So they sat around quietly on Moonface's curved sofa and bed and chairs and ate and whispered, waiting for the squirrel to come back with Mr. Whiskers and the brownies. Whatever would happen then? I hope you enjoyed that. And we'll continue with the next chapter, chapter 24, very soon. If you don't want to miss to see what happens next, please do subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to continuing reading to you again very soon.